I'm your host, Reverend Al Sharpton, and we're back. Today is February 7th, National Black HIV/AIDS Awareness Day. And all of us need to be aware of how this impacts our community. Black people represent roughly 12%, 13% of the population. However, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reports that we amount nearly half, 47% to be exact, of the nation's new HIV infections. And to break this down, I wanted to bring on someone who works and deals in this area every day, all day, and most of the night. He is the executive director of the National Black Justice Coalition, NBJC. It's a civil rights organization dedicated to the empowerment of black LGBT community, and he includes people living with HIV/AIDS. David Johns, how you doing, David?
I'm good, sir. Thank you for making space to have this conversation. How are you?
Very well. Tell us how this disproportionately affects our community.
Yeah, I appreciate you asking the question. And for those who don't know, as you stated, NBJC exists to ensure that all members of the Black community have the chance to be safe, happy, and healthy. And one of the ways that we continue to be inhibited in being free in that regard is HIV. Since the introduction of the HIV epidemic, Black people have been disproportionately impacted. And there are a number of reasons why that's the case, but chief among them is that Black people live with and have sex with other Black people. And because we are disproportionately without access to the type of culturally competent care and access to things like PrEP and PEP, the rates of infection have continued to increase in our community while they've decreased for everyone else.
And what people need to know, like one of the large amounts of people infected by this are heterosexual women. Is that true?
That's exactly right. Too many people think that HIV is a gay disease, and that is not the case. It is very much the reality that Black men who have sex with men, that's the term that the CDC uses, and it's problematic because it includes trans individuals in that category, and many of them are not men who have sex with men. But the CDC said some time ago that half of us, 1 in every 2 Black men who have sex with other men, will likely become HIV positive.
1 in every 2.
That is true. 1 in every 2. And the CDC said that some years ago, and that should have caused alarm. But it is also the case that for women, for cisgender, so that's women for whom they identify with the gender they were assigned by a doctor at birth, and for heterosexual women, they are most infected by or impacted by HIV compared to all other racial and ethnic groups of women.
Is that because they engage in sexual activity with men that have it?
Not always. To be clear, that is a part of the conversation. A part of that was popularized by Oprah some time ago when she and J.L. King talked about men being on the DL. But no, it is the case because HIV is transmitted through heterosexual sex as well as it is sex between individuals of the same sex. Some of what we've learned in our work is that it is too often the case that Black women don't feel empowered enough to have conversations with their partners, their heterosexual male partners, about their sexual practices in the ways that they might be otherwise protecting themselves. And so a lot of this goes back to stigma. Too many Black people, regardless of their sexual identity, gender orientation, or expression, don't have these conversations. We allow the stigma and the shame that accompanies sexually transmitted infections, things like living with HIV, to prevent us from not only having the conversations, but then from going to get tested and then being connected to care.
Now, the fact that we do not have care and that we get less care, health care that is, in our community also means we do not get tested as much. So a lot of this also is that people can be HIV positive and don't even know it.
1 in 7 Black people living with HIV are unaware that they have HIV.
Wow, 1 in 7.
One in 7 Black people right now living, thriving with HIV are unaware that they have it. And the reality, again, this work is so important to us as an organization because Black people are dying because of HIV, and we don't have to. There are medical interventions. There are ways that we know that we can create communities of support that will allow people who are living with HIV to thrive. It is no longer the death sentence that it once was. But again, because we don't have these conversations, consider for a second that it cannot be the reality that Magic Johnson is the only Black celebrity we know who is living with HIV. It just is mathematically impossible. But we exist in a world where people don't feel comfortable enough talking about it still today. And so I'm underscoring the point that we are dying and we don't have to.
Now, there are medical ways of dealing with it, of treating it, but first you have to acknowledge that you have it or find out that you have it, and then get what is necessary to deal with this and continue life. It is not necessarily a fatal disease if you catch it, in terms of being aware, catch it, and if you do what is necessary to do to medicate it and deal with it. Is that not so?
That's all correct. So 3 quick things. One is everyone should be able to find a free testing site in their community. If you don't know where to go, you can visit nbjc.org. You put in your zip code on our homepage. We'll find a place near you. Go get tested. For most people, you should do it every 6 months. If you're sexually active, you should get tested. You should do it every 6 months. And for those of us who are at higher risk, Black gay men, for example, every 3 months. The second thing is to be connected to care. There are, as you said, for individuals who test positive, there are ways to work on viral suppression. That's the term, is to have your viral load suppressed such that you cannot transmit the virus to somebody else. And so there's lots of resources. You can Google U equals U or viral suppression, but it is possible to live with HIV and to have it virally suppressed such that you cannot transmit it to your partner. And if you are not HIV positive, there are also other medical interventions you can consider. I take a pill called PrEP, pre-exposure prophylactics. It's a pill that you take every day, almost like birth control, that reduces the likelihood of me becoming HIV positive. That's a pill called PrEP. There's also a pill called PEP that one can take almost like Plan B if you believe that you have been exposed to HIV. And so I'm underscoring the point that we're not asking people not to have sex or do the things that people always do, regardless of how you identify or who it is that you decide to love on. But we are saying that there are resources that every Black person, every Latinx person, every person of color should make themselves aware of so that you can ensure that you are as healthy and as happy as you possibly can be.
Again, give us that website for the organization so people that want to get into this and really find out what they could do. And it may not even be for you, for your children, for your grandchildren, for someone close to you. We need to stop putting our head in the sand on these issues and deal with life. David, where did we go to your site?
Yeah, of course. NBJC.org, the National Black Justice Coalition.org. And I appreciate you saying that, Reverend Al. We should be clear that 2 of the communities that are most impacted by sexually transmitted infections, including HIV, are seniors, are individuals who are eligible for AARP memberships, as well as young people. And this is, again, because we don't have conversations about the fact that we expose young people to sex through books and movies and conversations and things that are laden with it, and that people, who are more experienced in life also like to have sex as well. And so this is a conversation that everyone should be invested in. And if you purport to care about Black people, our civil rights, our social liberties, our health and well-being, you should become more aware of and be directly engaged in reducing the impact of HIV in our community.
All right, David Johns, and again, Executive Director, National Black Justice Coalition, NBJC. Go to nbjc.org and really deal with the situation. We wanted to bring you this on National Black HIV/AIDS